Part 2, we're talking about media.
Yeah.
Reform.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to attack the issue of why it's important. So, we know that the Irving Empire has vast interests in the forests, and they have vast interests in industry and how the government is run, and that's all good, and so they should have. There's no problem. But when you have that so much overwhelming influence in so many sectors of one society, one has to have an independent media to be a kind of public scrutineer, if you will, something that brings our stories together to say when things are wrong. But what we have is we have all that interest also is controlling the message. So if you see an editorial that praises a loan guarantee to one of their companies, how do we know that that's a legitimate point of view? Was there good journalism done on that? In New Brunswick, a journalist operates in fear.
What is
in
it?
fear.
Yeah.
Okay, a journalist. What is a journalist? Yeah. Okay, to me, a journalist is one who seeks the truth and goes wherever the truth takes them and wants to create a story either through film or writing or whatever capacity.
Is that the reason I got banned from the legislator? I went there to seek the truth.
Well, maybe. But the problem is, in this particular situation, we need to get the media. Like, for example, if you were a young reporter at the Telegraph-Journal, I'm not suggesting for a minute that anybody in the management or the ownership is saying, you got to write this, you got to write that. I'm not suggesting that.
You don't? I do.
No? Well,
I do.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one, and I'm pretty certain it's true. I believe it in my heart.
Okay.
I believe it. Okay? But if you're the journalist writing the story, can you go where the truth takes you without fear? You know,
no, you can't.
No, it's very, very difficult. So in a way,
yeah.
you get a self-censorship.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there's another form of censorship, a censorship of gratitude. Who likes to knock their boss? Who likes to knock the person that's signing your paycheck? So if your paycheck is signed by Irving, if something was happening, if they were spewing too much gas in the air or something like that, are you going to be as passionate about that story as you would be if you were completely divested of that interest? So the importance of it is number one. We understand the importance of it. Now, number two, how do we do it? Well, there's a number of ways we can do it, but the number one way, the one I would appeal to, is to meet with the Irvings and say, this is no longer acceptable in our society. This is something that we need to, your growth has been so huge that in taking this, that we have to get this part back for the people.
Well, look at Matt McCain there got fired to write a bad story about Sean Graham last year, you know.
See, I don't know that, but you know, it may be true, and there's a Ken Langdon story, and there's a Julian Walker story, and there's all sorts of examples of people who feel that, and we don't know, you know, that could be just that person's point of view. You know, I'm not there looking at all the information, and so it's hard for us to examine that situation, but there seems to be, and I actually believe they can be talked into it, that they can be made to believe that this would be a wise move for their interests to say, let's let this bird fly.
There's no question about it. There's no question about it.
It would really enhance the, but and I think the new generation of Irvings need a vision, a modern vision, not one that says this is how grandfather did it, but one how we believe looking into the future.
Yeah, but Jack, you know yourself,
he
Irving
looked into the future, and he could look in maybe 10 or 20 years, and the things he envisioned were fantastic in many ways, but we can look and now say, geez, if we had to do it all over again, would we actually have done it that way? Like the forestry, for example. When he started planting trees, everybody was applauding it, environmentalists right across the country. But now, as we go into the future, we look and say, we've ended up with a monoculture forest, or a big portion of it. We've destroyed our Acadian forest. We've destroyed our biodiversity. And we've only think of the forest in terms of fiber. Okay, and we value it in terms of water table and air quality and biodiversity and supporting life of all forms, its beauty, its way to harvest it in a slow, mature way, to find value in the biodiversity, so that if you have an oak tree here and a maple tree here and a fir tree here, that is not corporately unacceptable.
You're on the roll.
Yeah, so we need a media that can take that passion and not treat you like you were a kook.
But do you say, yeah, that's what Brent Taylor called me, a kook.
Well, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about that if anybody holds that view passionately, how do we communicate that to the people?
But you always don't have the influence now with the newspaper to brainwash New Brunswickers like they used to. Wouldn't you say?
Well, again,
there's a lot of people believe if it's in the newspaper, it must be true.
Well, there is one of the things I said to Neil Reynolds, I think anyway I said it to him, but I've certainly said it before, is one of the questions I was asked, so you're out to destroy the media? And I said, no, I'm out to save it. I'm out to actually save it, because if your storytellers, if our community storytellers are lacking in a complete truth, or not to suggest that they're lying, they're saying black is white or up or down or whatever, but their bias is so overwhelming to one side of the story that it causes them to write like that. Because why? They got to meet the mortgage payment, their kids want lessons, you know, all of the things that a good family wants for their children. So as a father, I always say you'd have to have more courage to write a bold story in New Brunswick than you would be in Afghanistan.
Oh yeah.
You know, in Afghanistan they just have to worry about their life, but in New Brunswick they have to worry about their home and their family and their kids.
And they have to move all the problems.
And their job is to bring home the family paycheck.
Yes.
And
so
they have to compromise their professionalism.
Yeah.
They are professionals. And if they want to be professional, could you imagine a doctor saying, a corporation saying to a doctor, I want you to prescribe, you know, drug companies of course try and do, but I don't see any doctors saying, hey, you know, I'm on the corporate agenda, and they give you honest advice, and so too should a lawyer or an accountant or, you know, what we call professional, even people therapy giving you professional advice. A professional journalist has to give us the truth, even with just the way you see the truth.
Yep.
Right? Just the way you see it. That's what we, and if we like the way you write, and if we sense there's a truthfulness to it, then we'll want to read your column again and again and again. But right now, people are suspicious of the paper, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were going down in subscriptions. But
hold that thought. Part two. My God, this is better than I expected. Okay.